everybody, I'm Brian Terrell, and I'm working on a project. It's called a well-regulated militia, and the purpose behind this is because we're having a lot of debate on the national level and state levels and local levels about what the Constitution really means when it says the militia being necessary for the establishment of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's a lot of controversy on what that means. Some argue it's a collective right of states, that only states can have national guards, and that's what the Constitution protects. There are others that argue that it's a right for self-defense, or it's a right for hunting, or it's a right for sport shooting, and for many other reasons that they argue for. The argument that I make is that it's an all of the above approach. Every aspect of the Second Amendment is important. Every reason why somebody should have a right to a gun should be protected under the Second Amendment, not just one or two pieces. If somebody argues that the Second Amendment is about hunting, then the self-defense aspect of it gets ignored by politicians. If the politicians hear people screaming about self-defense, then the politicians go and make laws about hunting and try to infringe on the Second Amendment that way. And so we got to group together and defend every aspect of the Second Amendment, not just those parts that people prefer. Now, I argue that it's an individual right for many purposes, and there's more that we can define. But specifically from the Heller decision, they said self-defense is a right, hunting is a right, and then there's other rights. For example, sport shooting. We need to know how to shoot our guns. So obviously, some sports shooting is necessary for everybody, and there's others who prefer to do it as a full-time sport. The other reasons we have it is to defend our property and our family. Now, that's an individual right. Now, as we get together as neighbors, we begin what's called the common defense. It's not just a national thing, but it's something that we can do as neighbors. Within Old English common law that's been around for thousands of years, probably dating back to the time of Alfred the Great and before, the right or the responsibility of defending your town and village began when you were at the age of 12. And so 12-year-olds on up were required to aid in the common defense of their town or village. Under common law also, and this is more common within old Western movies and things, everybody aged 15 and up was to aid the sheriff and is to aid the sheriff to defend the county in what's called the posse comitatus. Now, in the Old West movies, they talk about the sheriff forming the sheriff's posse and hunting down a felon, and that's part of the reason for the purpose behind the creation of the posse comitatus. And the sheriff's posse we read about in the Old West movies, that's just an aspect of what it was. Now, as you move on to towards state and national levels, you have what's called the militia. Each of those persons, 18 to 45, are required to aid to defend the state and nation. Now, there's two aspects of that militia. There's the organized militia, which is the National Guard, and some states have what's called the naval militia. Now, after that, there's the unorganized militia. Every man said, and according to U.S. Code 17 to 45, according to most states' codes, they have it recorded as 18 to 45. Every man within that age group is part of what's called the unorganized militia. If they don't belong to the National Guard or naval militia, then they're categorized as unorganized militia. And they also can be called up to aid the state or the nation if there's a time of national emergency. And according to the Constitution specifically, the militia can be called up by Congress to execute the law of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, and those are the only purposes behind it. And so a defensive war, they would be part of that. For example, the War of 1812, they were very commonly a part of that war. Civil War, they acted on both sides of that war. Now, the government has recently been in the habit of sending the National Guard overseas to fight in Iraq and different places like that, but that's not the purpose behind the militia. The militia is not supposed to go in an offensive war or engage in war overseas. They're simply to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, and that's it. Now, the purpose of this project is going to include a Facebook group, YouTube videos, Google Plus, a book that's in the making, and more information is going to come. Each video is going to be brief. It's going to contain some aspect of the Second Amendment, some aspect of that people need to learn. For example, one day it will be about the Posse Comitatus, another day it will be about more in depth about state militias, another day it will be about the federal militia. Some days it will be about other aspects of self-defense and things like that. And I hope you continue to follow me and join my Facebook group and keep posted. Thank you very much. Bye.